Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, December 10th of 2024, and this is the Stoughton City Council meeting. The first order of business would be the roll call.
Okay, Johnson.
Here.
Payton.
Here.
Caravello.
Here. Just walked in.
Thank you. Nino. We'll move on. Sherlucky.
Here.
Abel.
Here.
Schumacher.
Here.
Mayeski.
Here.
Hirsch.
Here.
Butler.
Here.
Lagaki.
Absent and excused.
Oh, that is correct. Yes, thank you. Wozniak Scanlon.
Believe she's online.
Yep, I'm not able to hear. I do see her here though. Yep. So we have 10 alders present, 2 alders absent and excused.
Okay, thank you. Next
Yes.
item would be we're certified in compliance with open meeting laws. So we would go right to public comment, and I have at least 2 people here to speak. The first one would be Katrina Becker. You know the routine, right? You press the red button, the red light comes on, and you have 3 minutes or less.
Okay. Hi, my name's Katrina Becker. As both a resident of Stoughton and as the Executive Director of Innovation Center Stoughton, which is now located in the Depot Hill area at 421 East Main Street, I would just like to express my support for the Depot Hill Creative District concept. The Innovation Center is a nonprofit whose mission is to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, and creative learning in the Stoughton area. We offer opportunities for people to engage with cutting-edge technology, explore their interests, cultivate new skills, and bring their ideas to life. This concept for the Depot Hill Creative District would only help further our mission to provide these types of opportunities, and I believe it would only build on and add to the great things that already exist in this area, like Grand Inspired, Able Gallery, and all the other small businesses downtown who are doing creative things. I think there's huge potential for the Depot Hill area to become even more of a destination for arts and creative endeavors, and I believe this concept would help make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I have Nancy Hagan. And you can there you go.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, so I love the Depot Hill idea. I just don't love the depot as being part of that Depot Hill idea. The depot was built in 1913 and was remodeled in 23 and 45. It closed in the 70s. The city of Stoughton bought it for $10,000 in 1987. I have in a packet that I've given the mayor and the developer some letters that we went through our history at the museum. The first one was from Fund Dollar, where the depot was literally falling apart. He was begging the Wisconsin Department of Transportation to start talking to Stoughton, which they did. In 1990, Mayor Helen Johnson had a resolution R-1688 allowing the Stoughton Historical Society to restore the depot with an irrevocable lease. February of 1992, there was a request for the chamber to use the depot, which they still are in it today. And in 1997, there was another agreement with the city of Stoughton, Stoughton Tomorrow, and the Historical Society. Stoughton Restoration Committee was formed in 1990, and it raised more than $21,000 through fundraising. Over $32,000 in expenses, not including the hundreds of hours that were given by volunteers from the Stoughton Historical Society to refurbish and save the depot. In 2019, the Stoughton Historical Society formed a committee with our old house club, Landmarks, ourselves, and the chamber, and we raised over $4,000 going into needed improvements. A grant was also obtained from the Stoughton Area Community Foundation to help update some improvements at the depot. The City of Stoughton, the Stoughton Historical Society, and the Chamber of Commerce have had very good working relationships to promote the depot. It's important to our cities while utilizing the building for the Chamber and providing space for our Historical Society's Transportation and Farming Museum. We would like to continue that relationship. So,
Thank you. And let's see, anybody else here wish to speak that didn't have a chance to sign up? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda. The first item would be communications, and that would be President Schumacher.
I always hate following up the Historical Society with historic things because they do it better. All right, so just a couple of things here tonight. This is, 1907, the Mant Wagon Company basketball team met Waterloo in Portage. On Friday evening, they tackled the crack team in the state. The County F boys, the score being 28-18. Manager Palmer thinks they ran up against the real thing. All right. 1947, a capacity audience of over 600 people, many of whom stood during the entire performance, attended the annual Christmas festival and pageant presented by junior and senior high school students Wednesday night in the old gymnasium. It's believed to be the largest audience ever to attend the annual event. Right. And in 1972, 2 Stoughton artists have been invited to exhibit their work in a dedication show at Brooks Memorial Art Gallery in Memphis, Tennessee. They are 2 of 10 artists invited across the country. Richard Lazaro is one of the artists. Richard Long was the other artist. Those are just a few bits.
All right, thank you. In your packet, you'll see that there's a proclamation from Governor Evers for Election Hero Day, and we want to thank all of those that participated in the elections. Is there anything you wanted to say to that, Clerk Kristen?
Hold on. My camera is not working. There it goes.
There you are.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, his proclamation said an awful lot for everyone that worked for our elections here in Stoughton. It was a very busy election for sure in November. So I just want to give a shout out to everyone, myself, as well as Public Works, PD, and oh gosh, everybody at City Hall that helped us set up and carry on the smooth process that we had in Stoughton. So thank you.
Yeah, I heard we had a good turnout.
We did.
So, yeah, thank you again for all your efforts. Obviously, it takes a team effort and a lot of community members to make it happen. So things seem to go really well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Chief Josh Ripp is here to give us an update on the outdoor warning siren installation.
All right, so we were looking at, over the past couple of years, we've gotten some discussion items about outdoor warning sirens not getting to places within the city. Started looking at maps, and so we started investigating where we can put a siren. So just as a history, the siren system throughout Dane County is controlled by Dane County Emergency Management through connections with the National Weather Service primarily. We don't have any direct controls within the city. Essentially, the way the process works is we buy the siren, put it up, and then we hand the keys over to Dane County. They take over maintenance, they take over operation. It is just there. We just, as we grow, have to add these sirens in. So, the discussion for tonight, based on conversation at the Public Safety Committee when we discussed it, really revolved around permission for us to put a siren in a proposed location that we've got, and B, there is some discussion about setting precedent for, as we add neighborhoods and as the city grows, making sure that those that coverage for the outdoor warning sirens are part of that process as these developments are made. So, so kind of the discussion here, we decide on a location, we pay for it, signed over to Dane County. Next, Tim. This, generally, there is one siren that Dane County has contracted. There's a company that comes in, does all the maintenance. That way they keep spare parts. They know the controls all work the same. And it is a well-established company. Federal Signal has been making sirens for ever and ever since the beginning. So it's a solid one. The big thing about it is that the siren actually works off of a giant battery pack. So battery charger charges it, battery pack can run the siren as long as it receives a radio signal from Dane County, and it'll operate up to 5 times for 3 minutes per time, which is so 15 minutes total run time off of those batteries. There's a maintenance program, they check them, so if a battery gets low, it gets swapped out to make sure that they're effective. Next, Tim. So where we're proposing it, we don't really have line power anywhere close by. So there, we have it set up that there's a solar panel that will be charging the battery. Again, it's the same battery pack, it's just charged off of solar. Where we want to go is an area that has planning for development off of the whole Avenue area to the south. And really, there's growth expected there in the next 5 years. So that the siren should serve that area and all of the growth for the next 20 to 30 years we anticipate. The caveat is, because of the way the placement worked out down to the south, we will have to plan for another siren into the northwest corner of the city as part of those subdevelopments, Rutland, Duntown line area. There's some difficulty with some land ownership permissions and all of that. There was way too many people that had interest in this one spot that we wanted to go along 138, and it just we spent 6 months trying to figure out how to make it work, and we just couldn't get it to happen. So the good part is 2 sirens. We give us some overlap, so if one of the other sirens fails, there will be some overlap in there to hopefully still get some outdoor warning. Now, the one thing that Dane County always wants us to remember is that the outdoor warning sirens are strictly that. They're meant to warn the outdoors. They're not intended to get into buildings. With all of the energy saving stuff that goes in there for insulation, it really deadens the sound that comes in. So really, if you're in your house, you've got your phone, should have a weather alert radio, all of that kind of stuff should be available to you. This is for people that are outside. And really, if you hear the siren, the message is go somewhere else to find out what the siren is about. It's not strictly for tornadoes. It'll be one of many different things that could be going on. Next. So right now, today, our current siren coverage is those 3 big circles there. Where we want to go is the proposed site in the bottom left of the picture there, which would add a circle equivalent to the larger ones that you see there. Next. This is the comment, just a tool for outdoor. Next, Tim. So our last siren that we added was the Racetrack Road siren in 2017. Again, we've gotten a number of complaints from either directly into City Hall, to me, to the police department, online, that there's places that the outdoor warning sirens aren't getting there. So now we know that some of those complaints are in building coverage areas, such as 2600 Jackson Street, the Kettle West nursing facility. we can't do much about in the buildings. They've got their own warning and systems in there, but it is an area that's really on the edge of the current coverage as we see today. So really, again, today, just looking for permission. Where we want to put it is off of Nordland Drive. There's a couple ponds that are there. Just to the west, it's along one of the ponds where there is a road between them that leads out there. It won't be in anyone's backyard for a while, but it'll still cover that area there. And as things are built in that region, that'll help cover those other houses. So the hard part about sirens, everyone wants to be able to hear them when they need them, but nobody wants them in their backyard. So this is if we can get it out away from things a little bit, then people that are building houses have the opportunity to know ahead of time, I'm buying a plot of land that has a siren in the backyard, and they can make that decision. We're not putting something on a plot of land where someone's already built their house and made their commitment for the area. So it's about as fair as we can make it for the time being and still provide the safety coverage that we're looking for. So, any questions?
Any questions for Chief? Go, hit your button there.
I have a question. If you could go back to the map of proposed location. I was just wondering if there's any future plans to put like a siren by like N and B. It seems like that whole area up in the northeast is not, it's by the industrial park, but yet it's, it's not really being covered at all.
Nothing is set right now. We haven't investigated because we don't have a lot of City of Stoughton out that direction, and in B. Now, if there's growth and there's more development that takes off, then that's definitely a spot that we should go. It's roughly about $30,000 for a siren setup to get put in and chain and then miscellaneous.
It's mostly our industrial park that's not covered, right?
So yeah, and in the industrial park, they've typically in those buildings, the siren won't get into the buildings anyways. So they've got their own internal warning systems built in to their intercoms and all of that for coverage inside. Again, if we start building development, start building up out that way, then we definitely can make that part of the proposal for a developer to put it in. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? I'm just looking online. All right, no other questions. Thank you very much. And then we do have an action item later on in the agenda. The next item is the Depot Hill Creative District concept. And I'm just going to pull that up, and then we have somebody here that's going to do the presentation. Let's see. There we go. Hopefully I have the right one.
Does it say council?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. So I'm Christopher Gosh. I'm acting as the architect for the proposed idea here for a couple properties down at on East Main Street. So just very quickly, we started. This discussion started maybe 4 or 5 months ago. To look at some properties and see if they could be repurposed a little bit to start complementing a lot of the existing programs that are in the city of Stoughton and also regionally. The property at 500 East Main Street was one that was identified as a potential, and then throughout conversations, the depot building was identified as another potential property to to explore to see how that could be utilized in a different or similar way. I guess, there's a lot of ways this thing can go. The primary driver behind this is a Stoughton native. His name is John Smet, and he's got the Smet Foundation that would be intimately involved in these two properties. And he, if we skip ahead a couple pages, there's a little bio of John. So he's a Stoughton graduate, went to UW. He's got an incredible interest in helping to complement and pursue programs here in the community. And the thing that I just want to emphasize is that from the beginning with the Smet Foundation, and I've got Kara here too as a representative of the Smet Foundation, is they're definitely looking to complement, and I can't emphasize this enough, not compete with anybody, but complement all the existing businesses, existing pursuits that are happening. Kara's done an incredible outreach attempt outreach efforts over the last couple weeks here. As this is starting to take shape. Now these two properties, this will all be an iterative process, and what we're asking for tonight is an ability to keep the discussion going. Basically, there's a document that says, hey, there's a lot of conditions attached to continuing the discussion, and we would just like permission to keep talking through that. The potential uses, the relocation of items, if that is what's going to happen, we just don't know right now. But we would like to continue the discussions and get more parties involved so that we can find a good path forward for everyone. I'm not going to go through every goal here, but there's a lot of programs that are existing that need a space that the foundation could assist with. There's a lot of programs that could be expanded. Katrina and Mike over at the Innovation Center, they will not stop coming up with ideas as well, which is great. And we just want to be an integral part of the process in order to facilitate a lot of programs that are existing and a lot that maybe could not have been executed but for some additional space or additional programming efforts or whatever. So right now the 500 East Main Street and then the Depot are the two that have been identified as the primary drivers behind this. And part of the foundation's criteria, I guess, we're finding some of the missing teeth in the streetscape and trying to maximize the overall benefits to the community. And this is, this area is just fantastic, right? I mean, it's got a great history with the city of Stoughton and the previous activities that have happened down there. And so, let's take that history, embrace it, and start providing more opportunities for other activities to happen down there as well. Skip to next one. So those are primarily programming ideas that the foundation has come up with that Kara has been discussing with a lot of the potential program partners. Next one, and the foundation has a lot of ideas as well. Those are the groups that have been subject to Kara's outreach, and a lot of discussions are continuing with those groups. Not everybody has responded, but there has been a fair amount of good interaction with a lot of them. Next one. Yeah, just more program goals. Again, I'm not going to go through each one of those. but again, it's to complement the community and find spaces for either existing or proposed programs, and finding and defining the spaces that need to that are needed to have these occur. Now, nothing is set in stone here. Like I said, it's an iterative process. It's evolving. It's determining a lot of the needs of the community. But the concept of providing these spaces and having the foundation be there as a sort of a backbone and a support system, I think is what's important for everyone to understand on this one. Next one, Mayor. I think we're almost done here. Yeah, so that's the historic district that there's nothing proposed that would vary from the requirements of the historic district for either property. I think next one. We looked at a number of different precedents to get some ideas and just make sure that something like this has been successful in the past, and the again, the programming will be continued to be defined. One more. So then the depot building, there would be some general administrative offices in there. The front space would, at least the thought was, could the front space and the portico work in concert? Could that portico space be better utilized as a quasi-public space? Could there be something happening underneath there that could be more in the public good? We just don't know, but we just want to keep exploring that and reaching out to everyone to come up with ideas. And then the last one, yeah, keep going there. That's essentially what I said. And then 500 East Main, which would be converted into converted and restored, and that would essentially just be artist workspaces, of which the size and the variety we're still working through, but the intent would be more of a workshop space for visual arts or digital arts as well. So that's another demand item that we're seeing quite a bit. So we'd like to keep the footprint the same. I think it's a really, really cool old building, and we'd like to just restore that and keep the ability to make the streetscape make the streetscape a little better and get more activity down there. So,
all right, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none, and this is on later on in the agenda as well, so perhaps there'll be some questions then if you're around. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, and then the next item is going to be a presentation from Public Works Director Aber, and I just need to cue that one up. All right, let me know when you're ready, Brett, and you can just tell me when to.
I'm ready.
All right, go for it. Floor is yours.
Great. Thanks everyone for giving me the opportunity to talk about our snow and ice operations. Tonight, the purpose is to give you a little bit of an overview of what we do to combat snow and ice events in the community. So please ask any questions as I go through the presentation. Tis the season, obviously. It looks like Friday into Saturday we have a little chance of potentially 2 to 5 inches of snow. So we'll we'll pay attention to that and act accordingly. Next slide, please. So currently we have 142 plus lane miles of roadway and growing, of course, as we add development into the city. Nope.
All right, didn't advance.
All right.
All right, we'll try that.
All right. So with that, we have 8 residential plow routes, a downtown plow route, 2 cul-de-sac routes, walking paths. Obviously, we're trying to enhance our walkability in Stoughton, adding multi-use paths. With that comes maintenance. Parking lots, we have 10 of those that we maintain. Next slide, please. So we break our routes up into our main plow routes, our residential plow routes. So our mains are indicated on the map in red. So those are our main arterial roads. Those are the roads that we want to try to keep open as much as possible, that we focus on first. These are to keep open for emergency services, to get people home. Hopefully they stay home during a storm. Typically bring in a skeleton crew of 2 to 4 people during the storm to keep the roads open. We got to keep our staffing in mind because we don't have anybody to spare. So we do have to keep those people available for the back end of the storm. We have to come in and plow the whole city. During our plow operation for mains, we do light salting just to keep the mains open, like I said, intersections, inclines, schools, hospitals, things like that. Next slide. Our residential routes, like I said, we have 8 residential routes. Typically, we get into the residential routes after the snow has ended. So we plow curb to curb, salt as needed, intersections, the mains again, inclines, and then around the schools and hospital and such. Typically, it takes us around 7 to 8 hours if we have everybody here. That's not accounting for anybody sick or on vacation. So typically 7 to 8 hours, we can have it knocked out. So keep in mind that 7 to 8 hours after the snow is done falling. Next slide, please. Cul-de-sac routes. So we instituted this a couple years back. This is where we get our loaders with plows into the cul-de-sacs. So we're not taking our large trucks into the cul-de-sac. That typically saves us around 10 to 20 minutes per cul-de-sac. So if you do the math, that's about 11 hours of staff time that's saved. So we can keep those larger trucks going forward and plowing more roadway versus spending so much time in the cul-de-sac. So it's really paid dividends over time to get the roads plowed most efficiently. Next slide. So what a lot of people don't realize or sometimes may not appreciate is that, so we plow the whole city, and then our staff goes home and they take a nap, and then they come back that next night and they do the whole downtown. So it's not just a one night or a one day event. It's sometimes a 2 or 3 day event for our staff. So large snow events, we'll come back in with our equipment and our large snow blower in the front of a loader, and we'll load out all the snow from the downtown area. Obviously, that's to create more parking space. There really is no terrace area in the downtown. So the biggest thing is that we get the snow removed out of there so people can park and we can be open for business as quickly as possible. Parks. So Parks takes care of, the park staff, I should say, takes care of all city-owned buildings, all the sidewalks that are owned by the city, not just park areas, but there's some lots that the city owns that we have to take care of. The park's parking lots that we have open. This is a critical operation to do because of liability issues. So if we get anybody that slips or falls because of us not doing our part, that could potentially be a liability for the city. So time frame for snow removal, technically we have 24 hours in the downtown by ordinance and 48 hours for the rest of the city. That goes for our residents as well. Our time frame to get that done is much quicker, but that is the order. Salting and pre-wetting. So all of our trucks are equipped with salt brine on the truck. So we use a brine solution, which is a 23% saltwater solution that we mix in with our salt, and that really helps to reduce scatter on the roads when we're spreading the salt. Also helps to activate the salt a little bit quicker. Each truck is calibrated, so we know exactly how many pounds per lane mile that we're dispensing out of the back of the truck. So we can dial that up or back depending on the event. Typically, we're running about 350 pounds per lane mile, but we can dial those back in case of there's not a need for salt. We do train every year about salting and the use of salt by staff. The mindset is that every grain of salt that we put down ends up in our waterways. We need to be cognizant of that. So we like to be very judicious on how and when we use our salt. The snow emergency, everybody loves this, I'm sure, but we do have an ordinance in place during large snow events. Typically 3 inches or greater is when we call a snow emergency. It could be an icing event as well. So basically, if we call a snow emergency, it's from midnight to 8 a.m. for 3 consecutive nights, and it's odd even parking. So that means if today is the 10th and we call a snow emergency, it doesn't take effect until midnight, which is the 11th. So that means it's odd. So sometimes that leads to some confusion, but people need to recognize that the snow emergency doesn't start until midnight after the snow emergency is called. And then that takes place for 3 consecutive nights. And unless we cancel it, a lot of times we'll cancel it before that 3rd night. But that allows us to come back in that 2nd night. When we do the downtown, we usually devote a couple extra staff to go out and plow back the windrolls that go around the cars. So that helps us to get the streets clean from those that are parking odd even. Any questions about our snow emergency? All right, so here's how we notify our snow emergency. Our first call is to Ron Burgundy, and he gets the word out about our snow emergencies. We have an email notification that folks can sign up for on the website. So when we call a snow emergency, they will get an email from the city. TV stations, WSTO, all the Madison stations, 15, 3, and 27, will have it on their ticker. Then regional radio stations, there's a variety of those that will get notified, and hopefully they broadcast our snow emergency stuff over the radio. Official city Facebook page, we'll put a notification out on that, and then we'll have a ticker on our website. Challenges, a couple. Parked cars are always a challenge for us and for residents. As you can imagine, we have to go around the cars that are parked on the streets. Our trucks that we use are very large. We use a wing off the side of the truck as well for efficiency. So the more cars we can get off the road, the quicker, more efficient, and the better job we can do on the roadways. If any of you are so inclined, I would invite you to take a ride along with us in our trucks to kind of get a bird's eye view of what we're up against. The picture on the right is if we have cars that are illegally parked during a snow emergency, it makes it awfully tough to get through to basically do our job. Residents that blow snow back in the street after we go through, really that just hurts themselves. It hurts their neighbors because typically we're through and we're not coming back. And so now they just put snow in the street that could become slippery for themselves and their neighbors. Also, some of the contractors that may plow out driveways or parking lots, sometimes they're not real careful when they deposit snow back in the street. I like to think we have a pretty good relationship with most of them now that we say, we can tell where they've been and say, hey, can you go clean that up, please? So there's those are just some of the challenges that, you know, we all got to do our part. I understand there's not a lot of places in some areas to put snow, but we just all got to be cognizant that, you know, we got to take care of each other. Garbage cans in the roadways. So Tuesdays and Fridays are always tough days to plow snow. So if you do have your garbage day on Tuesday or Friday, and we have a snow event that we're coming through to plow, we'd ask that you try to put the garbage cans in your driveway or off the road. My house, my personal house, I shovel out a little area in the terrace area for the garbage cans, just so they're out of the road. If you don't do that, it makes it awfully tough to get to the curb and do a good job for your roadway. Mailboxes. So the mailbox or the USPS has regulations on the height of the mailbox and the setback of the mailbox. So we encourage everyone to take a look at that and make sure that their mailboxes are set correctly. Occasionally we will hit a mailbox with our plow. However, if the mailbox is in disrepair or not installed according to USPS, we will not replace those. If they are rotten at the base of the mailbox, we are not going to replace those. Now, if we hit the mailbox because we hop the curb and make a mistake, we will definitely replace the mailbox. We made our mistakes and we'll move forward. But if they're not installed correctly or they're in disrepair, we will not replace them. I'll keep you up with future growth. Obviously, steady growth is important, and smart growth is important. We just got to make sure that we're keeping up with our staffing and our equipment as we grow. For example, next year at our capital projects, we do have another plow truck in the works. So that's just trying to keep up with the growth. But with that also comes staffing. So I always like to make that plug because we essentially have no extra people. I'm your extra. So I'm your if somebody goes down, I hop in a plow truck or I hop in a tool cat or I grab a shovel or whatever needs to happen. But we have no extra staff. So it's basically all hands on deck. We have a snow event, and with future growth, we just need to make sure we keep step with that. So plow drivers are just doing their job. They're out there doing this for you guys. So please be patient with them. We can't be everywhere at once. Like I said, it takes 7 to 8 hours. Somebody's going to be in hour 1 and somebody's going to be in hour 7 or 8. That's just the way it is with the way the routes are set up. We set them up to be most efficient. But somebody's going to be first and somebody's going to be last, unfortunately. We'd love to be everywhere at once, but the reality is with eight routes, 8 trucks, that's just not possible. So just be patient, slow down, give us some space, let us do our job. Snow has to be plowed to the curb and will go into your driveway. That's just the reality. Keep in mind that our staff, once they're done plowing for 8, 9, 10 hours, they have to go back and shovel out their own driveway in their own windrow. We're not exempt from that. We're just like everybody else. So that's just the reality. You're going to get snow in the driveway. We don't like doing that, but we have to put it somewhere. Any questions from the group?
All right. I have Alderperson Abel, and then I have President Schumacher on deck.
Can you just remind us how many folks you have on staff for plowing?
Yeah, so we have, in streets, we have 12, and then parks, we have 4 with 1 part-time, I would say. So that's it. So we are lean and mean. So the biggest thing is if we can have everybody here, we're okay. Now, if we have people that are sick or we don't like to do vacations during the winter, but we're all human. We all have things that we like to do with family. So we do allow some vacation. So in that event, we may be short. And like I said, It's all hands on deck. I'll hop in a plow, I'll do what I need to do. But we are maxed, essentially. We have everybody that we have is in a piece of equipment.
Any other questions? All right, President Schumacher.
Brett, I got a couple of questions. One of them goes off of, kind of hinges off of what Sarah was asking. What are your requirements for driving a plow?
Yes, you have to have a Class B CDL to drive the larger trucks. Now, just a pickup truck or a tool cat or something like that, you can just have a normal driver's license. But the larger plow trucks, you do have to have a Class B CDL.
All right. And then what are the range of years of experience that you have with the staff that you have?
Good question. So our newest CDL holder, let me think for a second, would probably be 6 years. And then our most veteran staff would be 34 years, 35 years.
Okay.
It's a pretty wide range, and we do trainings with those folks, and it's not easy to hop in a plow truck, especially with a wing. So
I bet.
So I would encourage anybody that wants to take a ride with us, just let me know, and we can get you in a truck to give you some perspective.
We get snow this year. I might tag along for one.
All right. Hey, Friday night.
Maybe so. We'll see. Last question I've got is, with the addition of more lane miles with development, do you do periodic redesigns of the routes, or do you just add on to existing routes, or do you rework them completely?
Yeah, great question. No, we analyze our routes each year with new development. We know what's coming online, what we have to start plowing when it comes to occupancy with different developments. So we've been planning for this for quite some time. Sometimes it's just kind of reshuffling some routes or kind of morphing them around. Other times it's looking at adding a whole new route, which could possibly be next year. We've been planning for this for quite some time, to be honest. Right now we're in good shape. And with some new development coming on next year, we'll be looking to add a route. Now keep in mind too that we don't have to add a route. However, that will affect service. So instead of getting done in 7 to 8 hours, it could be 9, 10, 11 hours. And that's one thing, but it's also staff burnout as well. So the more time we spend out there, the more tired and the more potential risk that we have with mistakes from staffing if we keep them out there too long.
All right, thanks. I won't ask my questions about salt this time.
Sure.
Alderperson Mayeski.
Brett, the snow emergency notification, is that something that has to be renewed annually, or is that something that you carry over from year to year?
Great question. I'm going to ask IT that tomorrow. Yep. And if we do have to have people sign up again, we'll send out some stuff on Facebook. But yeah, great question, Tom. Thank you.
Alderperson Payton.
Director Aber, thank you so much for all your work. Really appreciate everybody going out there and giving their time, the risks that come with it. Last year we had some impacts early, like snow was very impacted, and we saw that in Madison especially. There were some, it lasted a long time how long it was packed in and how deep it was packed in. What are your strategies for situations like that, knowing that that happened last year, and how to prevent as much as possible some of that happens in our streets?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is to try to get to those things early and often. Last year it impacted so many communities in southern Wisconsin because we had that 1 week. I think we had 24 inches of snow. Like on a Tuesday we had 12 inches of snow. Then Friday into Saturday I think we had another 12 or something like that. The biggest thing with that one is we had temperatures that were probably 28 to 30 degrees on that Friday. And then Friday into Saturday, it dropped to 0 to 10 degrees, somewhere in there. And so basically anything that didn't get removed that wet, slushy, kind of snow, heavy snow got locked in there, especially when cars drive on it. So the biggest thing that we can try to do and try is to try to get to it early and often, with only one. So some places have multiple shifts. We're not that lucky. And so we always have to plan for the back end of the storm to make sure that once it's done snowing, we can get our full crew in to clean up the whole city. So if we burn them all out during the storm, we're in trouble on the back end. So that's where we potentially have some issues when it comes to staffing, is that we can't be out there in 2 different shifts. Where if we had 2 different shifts that day, we'd have people out there all day Friday, and then the full crew would come back in on Saturday after the storm. That day we had a skeleton crew in throughout the whole day. And so basically we had 4 people in throughout the day in shifts, from basically, I think it was like 8 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. Different shifts came in to keep the mains open. We would love to get to the secondaries, but the reality is we don't have enough staffing to do that without burning everybody out. We can play armchair quarterback. Hindsight's always 20/20. There's always room for improvement. Will we done things differently, knowing what we know now? Of course. Yeah, I'd be a fool to say that we wouldn't do it differently and learn from things that have happened in the past.
Yeah, and my purpose is also to make aware that you're doing what you can. Like that was a very unique circumstance. There are going to be unique circumstances in the future. You have plans, you have intention, you have the people and personnel. So thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, anybody else have any questions? All right, thanks again, Brett.
Yep,
Appreciate
great.
it.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Okay. Before we get into the consent agenda, I want to let everyone know that after the meeting, I'm taking nominations for the ugly sweater contest that we have on this side of the room. So if you have a favorite over here, you can let me know.
If I knew it was the ugly sweater contest, I would have brought something different.
Oh.
This isn't ugly.
All right. Something about these 3 over here.
I just remember. Yeah.
It's contagious over here.
Right, I'm infectious, it's working in a clockwise way, so.
All right, we'll move into the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Butler, is there a second? Second by Majewski. And I know Alderperson Jensen, did you want to talk a little bit about Viking snow drifters before we get into it?
Yeah, I could give you a little information on that. This is another one of those that it's a routine annual thing. They brought their information in. Candy had a look at it. The chiefs had a look at it. Looked at the map and everything, and there was no issues with it. So we felt it was. And rather than have a special meeting, we would just bring it right straight forward through the consent agenda.
Yeah, my understanding is they have some new leadership in the organization. And if you had questions specific to that, I think somebody would be here to answer them. But we just wanted to give you a heads up that normally it would go through public safety, but because of that, and you never know if we're going to get any snow, so we really didn't want them to miss a potential event, which according to Brett may happen this weekend. So that's why that's on there the way it is. Other than that, would anybody like anything acted on separately in the consent agenda?
Mayor, would you highlight just a little bit because they did change their trail, the way that runs a little bit, so.
Okay.
Or if anybody has any information on how that trail changed.
Yeah, they had to change the trail slightly because of the construction out there and losing the one gas station that changed their route as well. So the chief did look into that, and he was. I hope he's there. If he, I don't want to speak for him, but in my brief conversation with him, everything seemed fine from his point of view.
Yeah, there is a map in the packet. I don't know how easy it is to see, but the biggest thing is one of the big changes is in the past, they would take the trail and go by the quick trip on Roby Road and then head down toward like BBG's or Deeks. And with that quick trip being closed, my understanding is they wanted to cross over to get to the quick trip in Kettle Park West. So that's probably the most significant change.
Yep.
And then there was discussion on where to make that crossing, and where did they settle on that, Greg?
No, I believe that is correct. As far as I know, that was the sticking point that the chief was working on, and Candy, maybe you know a little bit more, but when the last time I talked to the chief, which was a couple days ago, everything was fine.
I do not have an update on that part of it, so
Okay.
Not much help. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Well, the blue and is that green or red? I don't know what that other, I'm sorry, I'm colorblind. Green. They're two different parts of route, right? So it looks like it goes down 51 and then crosses to get to the other side of 51. At least that's what the green line looks like. And there are two crossings, supposedly. It's just north of. Yeah, it's north of Roby.
Mm-hmm.
But no, the blue is a different route. The green goes down towards Quick Trip.
Oh, come on up. You're here. I didn't see you back there. I'm sorry. And you can just push the button and the red light will come on. You can just introduce yourself quick.
Hi, I'm Brad Crowley. I'm the secretary of the Viking Snowdrifter Snowmobile Club. So previous years, Mayor is correct that we went to the Quick Trip. That was the old PDQ because that's closed. We learned last year snowmobilers would just keep on driving into town until they found a gas station because you could see the Quick Trip farther down. So last year the trail ended, I believe, in front of the car dealerships. It didn't cross the Jackson intersection. So this year we're asking if we can extend it down so the snowmobilers can get to the Quick Trip that's open. So what you see on the screen, the blue trail, that's the intersection of B and N. So that's where Stoughton Trailers are building their new office building. So we used to do a straight diagonal shot across that field, but because of their construction, we're continuing straight west and then coming down the right of way. The blue on the west side of 51 is a trail that's been there for many years, and it continues to go out to Oregon and down and around. That map that shows mostly the area in town. Through the comments that were in the packet, city property starts at Roby or Deer Point Drive, I think. We cross the garden center, the Gates property, which we've got permission from them to do so. And then from there, the rest of the way, it's mostly public right-of-way. So the only thing different we're asking for this year from last year is crossing that intersection to get down to the extra to the Quick Trip.
So the first map on the left was the old route, and on the right is the new route?
Well, the one on the right's a blow-up of the one on the left.
Okay.
Our president created this, and he's out of town for work and asked me to come. But what's on your screen, the blue is a state trail. The green is a club trail, so that's why they're different colors. But the blue is run out there. I started snowmobiling 6 or 7 years ago, and that trail's always been out there since I've done it. It's just different because we have to go around Stoughton Trailers, so I think he was using that for communication with them as well.
Okay.
So it's really the green coming south is a club trail.
All right. Thank you for being here. Are there any questions for Brad?
Where does it now? I mean, what is the street that it crosses over to get to the Quick Trip at KPW?
So I'm not sure if you can zoom in on that one.
Is it this one?
Yeah.
Is it by the roundabout?
It is north of the roundabout. So it'll come down on the east side of 51 and then hop over a couple houses north of the Taco Bell. And then it'll come down in front of Stoughton Lumber. Because that Deer Point, where it does that jog out, is the Stoughton Lumber business. Then it comes back on and hugs 51 again. There's private properties we cross there until we get down to where that frontage road starts, where the car dealerships are.
Where does it end? Where does this?
So he drew the map to end it all the way down at the next roundabout, but I think the intent is to end it by Quick Trip. There is another crossing there, so snowmobilers can get to Arby's and BBG's and the restaurants on the other side of the road.
All right, are there any other questions? Okay, so the motion on the floor is for the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 And anybody opposed? That motion carries. We're good.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll keep our fingers crossed for some snow.
Hope for that big snow that we were talking about earlier,
Yeah, we probably jinxed it.
Oh.
Okay, that takes us into old business. And the first item is ordinance 21 of 2024. And this one's coming from the Plan Commission. Alderperson Caravello.
There it is. This is ordinance 21 of 2024, an ordinance amending chapter 78 regarding consolidation of multifamily zoning districts and establishing requirements for a multifamily zoning district. And I so move.
Is there a second? Second by Alder Majewski. Alderperson Caravello.
And this is really combining or we currently have an MR10 and an MR24 multifamily residential zoning, and just eliminating those and creating a one MR zoning district.
All right, anything you want to add, Director Munns-Pritchard?
No, we had this several times at Plan Commission. I think it was 4 to 5 times prior to it getting recommended for approval to council. Then I brought it, presented a PowerPoint, and this is going to be now the second reading on this. So.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. Next ordinance also came from the Plan Commission, Alderperson Caravello.
And this is ordinance 23 of 2024, ordinance amending chapter 66, land division ordinance, to provide guidance and standards for citing equipment associated with centralized mail delivery service, Stoughton, Wisconsin, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by President Schumacher. Alderperson Caravello.
And this, like it says, is just providing standards for the citing of CBUs or cluster mailbox unit.
All right, thank you. I know the city attorney worked pretty closely with our temporary, our interim plan director, Tim, on this one, and covered it at the last meeting. Were there any questions about this one? Alderperson Hirsch.
And maybe I missed this in there, but what is the average distance that these CBUs will be from, like, an apartment or a condo? I'm just thinking of people that may have are disabled or have other physical limitations or elderly or anything like that. How far are they expected to walk to get to them, and will it be full? I mean, it looks like it's going to be fully accessible, but I'm just thinking about distance. How are people that have different abilities going to be able to access,
So I don't believe the ordinance covers like those distances or spells that out, that would be something as part of the site plan, like showing where the cluster mailboxes are. Like, so if they're not in the actual like apartment complex building, they are outdoors, that would be something that would be shown on the site plan. So that would be, a consideration you could bring up at that point in the process. Otherwise, it's hard to, I guess, put a specific, be specific as like the lots are going to be different, or the lot layouts are going to be changing. That is something we could evaluate in the future, or put that in the zoning code potentially. As far as like because this is dealing with the land division itself, that's just talking about conditions of when you're splitting parcels. So if we wanted to put those distances in, I think that's something we could address through the zoning code.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, because I just think that differently abled people, this might be very difficult for them, especially on the big winter day or any other inclement weather day or any other day. I mean, even 100 yards is a lot for someone who's able. Might not have a car, or something. So we might really be making it inconvenient for people to get their daily mail.
Yeah, I think what makes it challenging for us is, number one, I think this was initiated by the federal government. So that's one. And then the other one is not really on city property. But I think that, as you said, on the site plan, I think working with the builder or developer, we should be able to come up with a site that would be conducive to try to address your concern.
Is there, and maybe Director, once Pritchard could figure out if there's where we could put it in the zoning ordinance, if we could start looking at other ordinances, if anybody else has actually figured it out, to make it convenient for people.
Yep, we can certainly do that.
Yes, I'd be willing to look at that, and I'll talk to Rick about it. My only concern is are there any restrictions put on by, so obviously this was enacted by the Postal Service. Are there any restrictions that we can't go above and beyond? Yes,
Yeah,
I love putting you on the spot.
We'll have to take a look at that. I mean, because like the mayor said, this was initiated by the Postal Service, so we're just sort of reacting to it. But if there are like distances, that I'm presuming they're going to be more interested in like how easy it is for the male people to access the CBUs, and like how close they are to the right of way, or like their heights and things like that. So we can take a look to see if there's a way to address like distances from living units to where the CBU would be located.
That'd be great, because I think with a lot of federal laws, a state can make them more restrictive. They just get less restrictive, so we could add more restrictions on to make sure that they're there. But I think with the policy of the Postal Service, I think, aren't they mandated that people have access to their mail on a daily basis? And if they make it prohibitive that you can't have access to your mail, then they're not meeting their own statute.
Yeah, and that would more or less fall on the developer or the property owner. So they would have to design the mailbox to be accessible for the residents. So I don't think that would necessarily address like distances to the livable units, but that's, again, something we can take a look at and bring it back to Plan Commission and eventually here.
That would be great.
Thanks for bringing that up. Alder Pickerson Jensen.
Yes, I would make a motion then that we postpone the approval of this ordinance until we have that information.
Okay, would there be a second? So the motion was to postpone the vote.
But you say that it can't go in the ordinance? Or
Well, I
it has
think
to-
that would be part of the discussion. I mean, there's a motion on the floor, so
No,
is there
but
a
I was just
second?
trying to figure out, because Rick just said that it couldn't be in the ordinance, it'd have to be in the zoning, so I'm just trying to clarify that.
Yeah, though I think it'd be difficult to include this, like the distance between like the CBU and like structures in the land division ordinance, because that's potentially before they have like actual development concepts. So I think it makes more sense to put it in the zoning code, because that way we can regulate structure distances and things like that.
Understood. Then don't send, nobody second my motion then.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Not here in a second. Okay.
Rick, this was a fairly recent mandate by the federal government, right? So there probably isn't a lot of other, I don't know, case law kind of things.
We'll call it an
built on it.
evolving area.
I see. Got it.
I know too, and I'm not, but one of the places that we currently have been addressing this is in the developer agreement, and I almost wonder if that would be a good avenue too for being like, hey, you have to have this so close to X amount of units or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's correct. So like in recent development agreements, it's just basically been a requirement that they place the CBUs in locations that the city's not going to be responsible for. So as part of that, we could also establish like minimum distances between the CBU and excuse me, and the units. So, but also if there's no development agreement, we still want to make sure we're covering all of our bases.
Right, and we want to make sure that there's some place that when there's a new development that we know that it's actually a flag. But I was wondering, for a development, say there's multiple, I'm just thinking of the new proposed out by Stoughton trailers, where there might be a lot of apartment buildings and maybe the CPUs would be outside. Would there just be one CBU, or would there be multiple? Can there be multiple CBUs in an area?
So it's interesting that you asked this. A while back, I took a tour of one of the developments in Fitchburg. It was the same one that you went to, Tim, and they had all of them in one location, and it was real far. Like I remember going like, I don't know if I want to walk this far. So, and it was a lot. But on the flip side of that, they did have it kind of situated that you could drive up and get your mail. So that might be the alternative. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. But I think it's something that we can look into and start and maybe put, if anything, minimum distances, and then maybe, or minimum blocks or something like that.
Yeah,
So.
I would actually work for, talk to some people that work with people with different abilities to see what would be the maximum distance that they would recommend, instead of us just pulling a number out of a hat, that it's actually backed up with some,
Yeah.
some data or something.
Okay. We'll check into that. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. Okay, next item is regarding the resolution 169 of 2024. This one came from Park and Rec. Alderperson Payton.
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Alderperson Hirsch on this one. I was absent for this meeting when it was approved.
Okay. 169, resolution 169.
Although I have a question about it.
Yeah, I could also explain it if you want. Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
Yeah, if
I can present it if you want to, and then
That's
Attorney
fine.
Matthew can speak to it. But All right, Resolution 169, 2024, a resolution to add tier system to the park impact fee. My question is about the language ordinance. Essentially, historically, the Parks Committee has been discussing impact fees, how they're allocated, how we make determinations on them, because we collect them and then we use them for the betterment of our parks, especially in the areas in which we collect those impact fees. There's been discussion about how we utilize the fees for other projects or for the projects, therefore, within the community and the development. This is kind of the result of that discussion. So I'd then lean over to Attorney Manthe on that one. But
You want it to be?
Is there a motion there?
I so move. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm out of practice. I've been out for a few weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
We'll get you back to the meetings and get you back.
I'm
into the
trying.
flow. I know you are. You're a busy guy. There's a second by Alderperson Hirsch, City Attorney Manthe.
Yes, so this would be a resolution, so it's not an amendment to the ordinance. I guess the point of a clarification then, so you have an impact fee ordinance that always imposes impact fees on new developments when they create new residential units. So back in 2021, the city did a needs analysis to determine what its current inventory of parks are, what the cost per acre is to maintain that current level of service. So that data was used to establish the baseline for your impact fees, and then they keep up with inflation. So that ordinance establishes that you're going to collect the money, doesn't say, besides that it's going to be for parks and trails, how the money will be distributed. So what this policy does, it's an internal guideline for the city to follow on how it evaluates where the park impact fees will be spent. So it creates 4 tiers. So one, you collect the impact fees. The first tier is it's going to be spent on parks within that development. Second tier, it would be for parks within, I believe it's a mile of the development. Third tier would be larger community parks that generate visits from all over the city or the area. And then the fourth tier would just be any other parks if there aren't any projects that the impact fees would be going to. Questions? Yes.
Go ahead, Alderperson Maskey.
So there's the amount of impact fees? No. So yeah. So there's the impact fees statute is more or less creates the framework for how you establish the impact fees, and it gives you a lot of discretion on how they're spent. The biggest restriction on spending is for these impact fees, you have to spend them within 8 years of collection. So the way that the impact fee ordinance and the framework is for the city is you collect the impact fees. They don't have to go towards any specific park. So it's more or less just going towards the impacts of development on city parks. That's the restriction by state law, is that it has to be collected for the impact of the development on city services. So this is going towards the parks and to ensure that we maintain the level of spending that the city has historically done on a per acre basis for parks.
I think the rationale for the tier is there's an expectation that the fees would first be spent where the new development would be, and then if there's any money left over, it helps guide where you would go next. Or let's say it's a situation where there's no park on a new development for whatever reason, it's an infill, or it's we collect money in lieu of. Yeah. So then, since you wouldn't have a park in that neighborhood to put the money, it gives you the guidelines of what your next option would be. So I think that's the purpose of the. Otherwise, the park department or the committee or the council could just say, just spend it on whatever park you want. And I think that neighborhood might feel like they're being,
That case isn't ringing a bell, and part of it too might just be how like that community's impact fee ordinance was structured. So because there are two ways to do it, you can do it as like sort of as a region by region basis of the city, to say like, all right, impact fees collected here are only for these specific projects or these specific areas of the city. The city's park impact fee ordinance is just broad, saying, okay, development in the residential development to the city is going to lead to increased service demands on parks in general in the city. So when we collect the impact fees, there's no restriction on which specific park it will be spent at. But you are correct, there's a limitation that it has to go towards the impacts of development. So this policy is one way to try to address that by saying, all right, we're looking at the impacts of the development. First, we're going to put that money towards parks that are going to be in the actual development. Second would be parks in within that 1 mile region, because that's parks that are going to be impacted by the development.
So it's more like what the mayor was actually saying. Let's see, we're going to say something, Phil.
Sorry.
No, I mean, if you're going
trying to tell me that his lights.
No, I just wanted to make sure that your microphone was turned on when you speak, sir.
Sorry to do that. Do this. It's shirking my duties.
Come on, what's going on?
I think what, like what the mayor was saying is there's obviously any impact fee that's collected, like say at Nordic Ridge development, is going to try best to go to that park. But if the new development in that park and there's nothing more to spend it on, then you go to a park that might need it a mile away. Or it's the infill, like the marathon site, the new project downtown, those places don't have parks. So, there is no guidance. What do you do with the impact fee? So now we know we can go to a park within a mile. And if there's no park, there is a park within a mile. But if, say, that park was just redone and it doesn't need any help, then we know what the next level is. It's just really trying to put some guidance, and so developers know, too, where it's going to be spent.
Go ahead, President Schumacher.
If adopting this tiered system, does that change any of the scheduled improvements that we have set for parks at all? Okay.
Not unless you wanted to. I was hoping you'd say that. All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none?
My quick clarification on this one, and maybe I just still did not quite understand, because we have a resolution to like add a tier system to the ordinance. So I guess we're not updating the ordinance, we're updating the policy. So
correct.
Why mention the ordinance then in the resolution? So that's where my
yeah,
this was looking at the title here.
So it should be policy instead of ordinance.
You are correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's creating a policy.
Otherwise, we'd have
for
an
the
ordinance to update the ordinance. I just want to be sure we're approving the right structure for the change.
The title of the resolution. Yeah. It has the word ordinance at the end.
It also, at the top for the descriptor and at the end when we're whereas or therefore.
Okay. Yeah, that should not say ordinance. We can bring it back and then. Yeah. I mean, so this would not be adding this to the ordinance.
We're amending the ordinance.
No.
That's not the intent.
No. This would just be an internal city policy.
Yeah. So it's just a resolution to add the tier system.
To the policy. So what I would, if I can amend the resolution, I would amend the resolution to strike ordinance from where it's mentioned and read policy.
Okay.
So at the beginning of this resolution, once I can pull it back up because I was looking at the other document, it would say a resolution to add a tier system to the park impact fee policy. And then at the end, where it says therefore now be it resolved, that the park impact fee policy update as outlined above is hereby adopted. Because that's the two areas on the resolution where ordinance is noted.
Yes, that's correct. The intent was not to amend the ordinance or create a new ordinance.
Right. So I would make that motion.
Is there a second by Schumacher? Okay. And we have a second. So the discussion is on the amendment. Is everybody good with the new language? Okay. No questions? All in favor say aye to the amendment.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. So now we have the resolution with the new language as a whole. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on these packets, if you see the arrow, you get the arrow on your notebook, you can advance to the next item if they're in order, which they are tonight. So that's the trick to maneuver the packets, assuming that everything is in the proper order. So I'm going to go through the park one, and that takes me to the next item, which is R170 of 2024, and that's coming from Public Safety Alderperson Jensen.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Resolution 170, 2024, resolution approving the installation of an outdoor warning siren at the water retention ponds off Nordland Drive, and I would move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Butler, Alderperson Butler. Alderperson Jensen, anything you want to add from the chief?
Yeah, I think that the chief's presentation covered it very, very thoroughly. If there's any questions, I don't know if the chief is still there. I think they could direct it to him, but it's pretty self-evident to me that this is what we need to do.
All right. Are there any questions on this one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. Next item, I think is going to be introduced by Alder Jensen as well. And this is just a discussion item. We're looking for some direction for the Finance Committee. Alderperson Jensen, go ahead.
Yeah, I brought this up at last Finance Committee meeting. I wanted to get the council's ideas, feelings about aldermanic salaries. I feel that there needs to be an increase for a number of reasons, and I wanted to just get an idea if the council is on board with that, if they would like to pursue that, have the Finance Committee take a longer look at it, maybe get some ideas of if we do want to do an increase as to how much that increase would be, or if it's not just something that you have any appetite for, to make that statement as well, and we can just put it to bed.
All right. Thank you. I see Alderperson Payton and then President Schumacher.
I would be in favor of reviewing it. I don't know when the last time it was reviewed. From what I had heard scuttlebutt-wise, it was a long time ago. But secondly, I think if it's reviewed, it would be good to check comparables between other cities like ours in Wisconsin, even our neighboring cities, for those who are serving. My thought is that we're not Madison. Don't need to have full-time employment to do this. But, it might be important for us to review how much is going into it as of now and what we can do or afford to do in the future for the service.
Okay. President Schumacher.
I'm having a struggle with doing this at the moment, primarily because we've had to, this year with a budget, we've had to dig into general fund in order to balance that budget out. So I'm having a hard time, you know, not like we're talking large dollar values in here, but in this case, it seems like every dollar would count. We looked, Dave and Finance Department did a lot of searching through to find every single dollar that we could get. So I'm not sure that this is the time in order to do that. It could be something out in the future if we get things a little bit closer to in the middle.
Alderperson Mayeski.
I'm gonna talk about this one because I have no skin in this game after this term is up. Your point's valid, and we can just make a recording of that, and you could do it year after year after year after year. Last time it was raised was, I don't know, because I've been on here for like over a decade, and it has never been raised. Actually, I'm kind of curious as to why, you know, for all intents and purposes, you're all considered city employees. Why it's not tied to the cost of living that all other city employees get year after year. That way you wouldn't be having to sit here and think about this and thinking that it wasn't fair or whatever. I would recommend that you look at this, raise it, and then tie it to the cost of living like every other employee gets at the beginning of every year. And then you don't have to worry about it anymore. None of us are here to make money off of this. Otherwise, we'd all be starving to death. And I don't think 37 cents an hour is helping anybody right now. So I behoove you all to save yourselves, bite the bullet, look at it, and move forward. Like I said, Brett has good viewpoint, but like I said, just make a recording of it, and we'll just play it every year.
Anybody else have any thoughts or comments? Alderperson Hirsch.
Actually, it was brought up not too long ago, because I brought it up probably like 3 years ago, and we did investigate because I think we were trying to make it a little bit more attractive to attract other people in our community that are not on this committee, because they're not as privileged as all of us, that maybe just having a little bit more would offset some of their cost of living from another job that they actually could serve. And so that's why I kind of brought it up then. And I agree that our budget is tight, but I think it behooves us to do the research now and bring it back, you know, let's see what it looks like at budget time. But I also know, because what we did the last time we did it, none of us would get the raise. It would go for whoever gets reelected. That's where it get it started. So it would be a tiered step process, if I remember how the ordinance actually goes. And so I still am for us trying to figure something out so we can attract more diverse and inclusive for the city council.
All right, thank you. Alderperson Jensen has his hand up, and then Alderperson Nino after that.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments that have been made already. That's exactly why I brought this forward. I wanted to hear what people had to say. I know that there's some hesitation to do this, as President Schumacher was talking about, and I would agree with that. But I think the conversation needs to be had. And like I say, for me, it's not going to matter that much. I intend to retire after next year, so you know, it won't affect me. but I do have concerns about the council. I'm very much vested in the council. So I believe it would be in our best interest, the city's best interest, to at least do some investigation and move the conversation forward to whatever end that may be.
All right, thank you. Alderperson Nino?
Yeah, I'll piggyback a little bit off of what Alderperson Hirsch said, which is that, you know, there is sort of an equity piece to this where if running for council becomes a little bit more accessible to more people who don't, you know, have all the spare time to volunteer to this, then that would definitely be a reason to look into this further.
You? Anybody else? Are you reaching? Yeah. I see your light on.
I'd say my last point on this is the hours that I think we underestimate how much time we put into council. It's not a full-time job by no means, but we do have to make sure that we're prepared for the meetings. You have to attend the meetings, which sometimes can be long, and then we often have multiple meetings in a week. So it then does not allow, if we were to need it, it does not allow us really the opportunity to go out and get part-time work as consistently, because this is a semi-part-time commitment. So to consider what that is and to create some better, not perfect, compensation for it would be helpful to bring in others and be more equitable for folks who, like has been said, don't have the privilege of time to just do it.
Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts? President Schumacher.
So I believe there's definite appetite to find a solution for this. So I think that we should definitely take the direction within finance and pursue it further.
Okay. And I know that Attorney Matthews done some legwork on the legalisms and the implementation that Alderperson Hirsch referred to. I have some comparables that I've already forwarded to the finance department, as well as comparables for other positions, but they also included the alders or village or town board members as well. So I think we have enough to go through a process and at finance, and we can, I don't know if you want a recommendation or if you want some options, but that's something we can maybe talk about at the meeting at finance and then bring something back. It probably wouldn't kick in, you know, I think the goal would be is if we're going to do something, we'd want to do it, you know, before the budgeting process, so we could budget the money for the first round for 2026.
Yeah, I think in some of the conversations that we had in finance about it, this would not be in place for this next round of elections. The earliest it could be would be the following year, if I understand correctly, because of the notice requirements.
That's correct. Regina hit it spot on, basically. Or I said Alderperson Hirsch. That it goes into effect for the next term, so it wouldn't even be for any. It goes like first round of terms, then the next round, then the third round, and then everybody would be on the same schedule. You have to make that decision before the start date for circulating nomination papers. So if you get it done before December of next year, it would go into effect in April of 26.
Okay, I think we have the direction we're looking for, so we can move on to the next item. The next item 11 is a conditional use permit for outdoor sales, and this one was at the Plan Commission last night. Alderperson Caravello.
This is R 171 of 2024, approving a conditional use permit for outdoor sales, vehicle sales lot, and vehicle repair and maintenance service uses at 1025 West Main Street, Stoughton, Wisconsin, parcel number 0511-071-0877-3, and I so move.
Was there a second?
Second.
Second by, who was it? Alderperson Hirsch, thank you. Also, Alderperson Caravello.
And as it reads, just some folks want to have a vehicle sales lot at this location. And the only thing, I think, two things that came up at Plan Commission were access to an adjoining lot, and also the mention or inclusion of a request to have a street tree in the terrace if possible.
That is correct. And we did have conversations with DOT today about this. Do you want to cover that, Chris?
So it's number one of the recommendations, which is also in the resolution, but on the staff report it has a picture, but you can see originally what had happened was in this area, the street was realigned essentially, and that middle lot, when it was realigned, they didn't require a lot combination or anything like that, and then they didn't record an easement with it. So essentially you've got that middle lot that's landlocked, and then it was sold separately. So part of the conditions is that the landowner needs to work with the adjacent neighbor and document that they have access there. So, and then the second one, and this has all been added to the resolution as well. The second one was to work with DPW and get hopefully a terrace tree in the area. As you guys are aware, this area is all getting reconstructed too, so that's something that to be aware of. So we won't require it to be put in and then ripped out. So.
And this area is set for reconstruction in 2026, I believe it was.
Believe so.
So any tree that we would put in, we'd probably put in the fall, hopefully of 2026, if there's enough time, or the spring at 27 after the construction is completed. Alderperson Hirsch.
I guess, I mean, one question I have a couple of questions, but this was just passed yesterday at Plan Commission, and I thought we generally have a criteria of, things that unless it's really super time sensitive are not put on the agenda right away. I was just kind of curious of why that was not followed. And this place has been vacant for a number of years, if I'm not mistaken. And is the owner from Page and Main moving his whole business here, or just expanding the business to this part?
I didn't speak to him directly about this project, other than I know he's been working on it a long time because I toured it several months ago. At that point, he was still working on the inside, so I don't know how close he is to actually opening this location. Have you had
I believe it's
contact
a
with him?
second location. So this is a second location for him. I'm sorry, I didn't even think about I knew I was going to be here. I put it on the agenda. I can start spacing them out. I also knew we weren't going to have a meeting at the end of the month too, but I apologize for that. That wasn't, my intent wasn't to push it through fast. I was like, oh, we got it, or I could pull it. So we went ahead this morning, made the amendments with the suggestions from the Plan Commission, and those are now in the resolution. So.
No, that's fine. I knew there was probably a reason. Usually it's not like boom, boom unless it's sensitive, and
Yeah.
I didn't see any time sensitivity on it, so I was just kind of curious.
There's no sensitivity on it. It was just fresh in my mind, and I was like, let's go ahead and put it on. And then with us not having another meeting coming up, so the second reading will actually be the first reading in January. So that's we got a month between-ish, so.
But this is an ordinance, so there is only one reading.
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, you're right, you're right. Sorry, I'm so used to 2 readings. If you guys want to table it, that's fine.
Go ahead, Alderperson Payton.
I actually can't open the document in Drive myself. I don't know why.
Oh.
But just as a point of access, I don't know. That's all.
Okay. Anybody else having any issues?
Okay, it's just me.
Sorry. I think it's the sweater.
I'm out of practice.
I mean, if it makes you feel better, when we converted it over, if you look, the resolution page is slightly, you can't see it, but everybody else can. It didn't transfer over correctly. I don't know why. Yeah, you can see it's all askew. It makes me crazy. Like, oh, I know. I was just, oh man.
Yeah. So I guess what's kind of the pleasure of the group? Do you want to take action or do you want to postpone it? Or do you have any other questions?
So my first is a conditional use permit, and with a conditional use permit, there basically is, like, unless there is some like really outstanding reason to reject it, it's here, we've explained the purpose. I almost think we should just move forward with it because we don't have a lot of room to deny it.
I don't want to go that far, but
Okay, maybe I'm a little out of practice.
No, basically with the conditional use permit process, as long as the property owner meets or agrees to meet the conditions imposed by the permit or satisfies all the ordinance conditions, and there is substantial evidence in support of the application, the council is supposed to approve it. The basis for denial, you would have to have some sort of substantial evidence supporting the basis for denial. So if there were evidence in the record that supported that they did not meet some sort of ordinance standard or couldn't meet a permit condition standard, that would be a basis to deny. But if there is no evidence, denying the permit becomes more difficult.
And the Plan Commission didn't find any evidence for denial.
The other flip side of this too is with this type of conditional use permit and the conditions placed on, if he can't meet those conditions, it would essentially null and void them.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, that motion carries. And then item number 12 is the MOU for the Smet Foundation due diligence for 532 East Main Street. We do have an opportunity to go into closed session. I believe this went through the redevelopment authority.
I don't think the MOU would have gone there, but
so this is between, let me get this right, this is between the city.
It's between the city and the foundation because the city owns.
Alder, you're
RDA does not own the.
Okay.
That's why it went there.
All right, but the RDA is going to be involved in this
Thank you.
process.
yeah, it's in a redevelopment area, so the RDA is providing recommendations, or they can review concepts. Do you have a question, Alderperson Payton?
No, I was just
Okay.
clarifying RDA's role, and I do have something, but I'll wait for it.
Yeah, so I'll provide a high-level overview of the MOU, and if the council wants to go into closed session to talk about it further, we can certainly do that. But basically, this isn't binding the city to sell the property whatsoever. It's just an MOU or memorandum of understanding that the Smet Foundation is going to go through a due diligence process, evaluate the feasibility of this property for its intended purposes, and potentially negotiate an acquisition agreement. So they would be providing the city a $10,000 payment that would cover the city's costs during the due diligence process. If the parties do agree to sell the property at some point, and there's they're going to go through the development process, at that point there would be a cost reimbursement agreement to cover the city's expenses beyond that. So this $10,000 is basically just to cover the city's costs for the next 4 months. Like I said, it's a non-binding in the fact that you don't have to actually come to any sort of agreement with the potential buyer of the property. Basically, we're just going to go through the next few months to negotiate, see if there's if it's feasible to sell the property or not.
Any questions on any of that? Bill, go ahead.
I think with at the redevelopment authority, we had met with the architect. We had gone through the similar concept plan and had some lively discussion about it. And one of them was to get a little bit more knowledge about the foundation. And I know the foundation representative is here, so I was wondering if they could speak a little bit further to what current principles and mission of the foundation is and how it matches with this project.
My name is Kara Kasten-Olsen. I am the interim executive director for the Depot Hill Creative District project. So I was brought on to help, do some community outreach, work with Chris, the architect, as we reach out to the community, see what the community wants from the project, what is a good fit to complement the things already in Stoughton. So as Chris mentioned, the Smet Foundation is a 501(c) foundation. John and his wife Cindy are the sole providers to the foundation, and so they don't take any additional funding from outside of the contributions they make to the foundation. So so far, a lot of their work and the foundation has been based on education and supporting education, and I think we've been brought on to help John. He wants to give back to the community. As mentioned, and some of you may know the, I'm blanking on the scholarship, but the scholarship that they provide to the Stoughton High School, they've been doing it for over 25 years. It's the largest scholarship given through the Stoughton High School, and it funds a senior going into 4-year education for their 100% of their tuition. So I think, John and his wife really want to give back to Stoughton, and that's the point of the foundation in this project. So.
Any other questions or information you're looking for? All right, thank you for being here. Any questions on the components in the memorandum of understanding? Okay, so were we looking for a motion for it then, or do you feel like we need to go into a closed session for any reason?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd leave it up to the council. If you feel comfortable approving, you could make a motion to approve, or I guess denying. Otherwise, if you wanted to discuss it more in closed session, we can certainly do that. We've got the option tonight.
What is the pleasure of the council?
I think I'd be comfortable if we went into closed session to discuss anything further, and if anybody else has any.
Okay, you prepared to read the closed session language?
You volunteered, so that's what happens.
See what you got yourself into.
If you can make it appear somewhere.
I can make it appear somewhere, I think. Just give me a moment.
Oh, I have it right there. Oh, I had it.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yes,
Got it?
I suppose I could have found that as well. The Common Council may convene in closed session per statute 19.85, parent 1, parent E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The Common Council may reconvene in an open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session. And do I so move?
Yes, you do.
And I so move.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Peyton, and then this needs a roll call vote when you're ready, Candy.
There we go. Boy. Butler.
Aye.
Wozniak Scanlon.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
Peyton.
Aye.
Caravello.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Abel,
Aye.
Nino,
Aye.
Hirsch,
Aye.
Mieski, Sherlucky.
Aye.
That's 11 alders in favor.
All right, we'll take a couple minutes and we'll get into closed session.
Can we turn the heat on?
We're waiting for Christina, I think. She hasn't found her way back to the main room yet. What? Oh, there I see her. All right, we're back in open session. I would entertain a motion. Does anybody want to make a motion regarding the MOU?
I don't have it up. I don't have it up either. I just Oh, you have your mic on though.
Oh, my mic is on, sorry. I'll make the motion to proceed with the MOU.
And is there a second?
Second.
Second by Peyton. Any discussion? What?
Sure lucky.
I've told you, I'm getting it was sure lucky. It's the sweater. Okay, so there's a motion by Caravello and a second by Sherlucky. Any discussion about proceeding with the MOU? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Entertain a motion to adjourn. That was Caravello. A second by Mieski. And all in favor?
Aye.
And anybody opposed? None opposed, we're adjourned at 9:36. Have a good night, thank you.